This is a Nevsky commander review. Nobody quite defines the meta like Nevsky. He is a rally commander, he is a field commander, he's even viable in garrisons. Much like Scipio before him, Nevsky kind of makes an impact on every single facet of the game. But Nevsky somehow manages to take that to a whole new level. So in this video we're going to go over his skills, the most common talents used, equipment, formations, and anything else that might be related to Nevsky. Without further ado, let's get started. First, let's go over his skills. Nevsky's primary skill is a 2300 damage factor skill that can inflict a defense reduction buff that is up to 45%. So this is huge in the field because the direct damage factor is nice for 1v1s, but if you're focusing a target, you can reduce their defense by 45%. That is an insane amount of defense reduction. And even tankier marchers are going to have trouble once you hit them with this skill for the time that the debuff lasts. Nevsky's second skill is 20% increased attack and 20% increased march speed, as well as a 20% health outside of Alliance territory. So, while on Alliance territory you don't get the health, the 20% attack and 20% march speed is also nice. So this is actually super useful in Ruins because you're not ever on Alliance territory, so the health boost is pretty much perpetual. Nevsky's third skill is a 20% increased defense, which means when you combine it with the second skill, you get 20% of each of the main three stats. And then you deal 10% increased damage to and take 5% reduced damage from surrounded targets. So if you're focusing a target, they're going to take more damage already, and then you're going to tack 10% onto that. And if they happen to turn on you, you can still keep fighting and hold him still while he's getting swarmed. And you take a little bit less damage from that, so it hurts slightly less. Nevsky's fourth skill is probably where it gets crazy. So he gets a default 25% skill damage boost. And then 4 seconds after the active skill, he gets an additional 35%. This does have a 5-second cap, but when you consider it's up for 4 seconds, you get a near total uptime, which is super useful. This also means that when you have commanders like Joan who recast, even if Joan's primary, you get a regular Joan skill, a 30% increased damage Nevsky skill, because Joan gives 5% damage boost. And then Joan's next skill is increased by 65%, and then gets another 5% damage boost, because Joan's skill. Overall, this is probably what makes Nevsky one of the craziest high damage output commanders in the game. And really, you could put him with just about any commander, and because of this, he would do something crazy. But this especially is shown with commanders like Joan and Zhang Yu, who can use that skill damage to an extreme amount. Finally, Nevsky's expertise gives 5% increased normal attack damage and a 10% chance to further increase the health of cavalry for 30% for 3 seconds. This can only trigger every 5 seconds, but really the increased health is super useful, and even if you took this away, Nevsky would easily be one of the better commanders in the game. Next, we're on to the talents, and this is where Nevsky really sets himself apart. Because he has the access to the skill tree, it really helps him shine. The cavalry tree has some great talents too. 12% reduced skill damage here on a Emblazoned Shield, Undying Fury giving additional 9 rage per attack. But the skill tree really sets himself apart. Reduced skill damage on Heraldic Shield, Burning Blood giving an additional rage, Clarity increasing skill damage after an active skill for 6 seconds, and there's not a % chance it's a flat, so it pretty much sits up in perpetuity, especially when you're using somebody like Joan Prime who has a recast. Rejuvenate for an extra 60 rage whenever a skill is used, and Feral Nature to give you additional 100 rage. The overall intent of the talent tree here is to get off as many skill damage procs as you can. And really this tree pushes Nevsky ridiculous kit from really solid to nearly broken. So now that we've talked about talents and skills, let's talk about how you want to build Nevsky. For equipment, you're going to want to focus on anything that keeps him alive for longer. Due to his high skill damage, you can build attack, but his high skill damage is already going to naturally make him hit like somebody who's building full attack. So if you build into defense especially, and health where you can, it really helps him stay afloat for longer. and the longer he stays afloat, the more skill he can do. And because he's getting a flat skill damage boost instead of an attack boost on his skills, really not building attack doesn't really do anything to boost that skill damage boost further, because it's based on a skill damage factor. So overall, if you build in the tanky stats, it helps keep him alive for longer, and if you do happen to get swarmed, you're more likely to get out of it alive. For armaments and formations, I highly recommend wedge formation. Wedge formation really just synchronizes perfectly with this kit, whether you consider regular or specialty inscriptions. Overall, you want to focus again on health and defense where you can. If you can get march speed and damage boosts, that's great too. Any inscriptions that also further do that, or any inscriptions that just straight up increase skill damage, are going to be your best options as well. So who should you pair Nevsky with? Well, because he's such a versatile commander, there's several options, and we're going to go position by position. First, for garrisons, you're best off having him with Jan, so Jan Nevsky. Although you could also do Jadwiga Nevsky, it just does not trade as well, although he does significantly help her skill damage, which is nice. But overall, you're best off with Jan Nevsky because the skill tree on Jan with the garrison tree allows him to be like Nevsky with the huge rage and the huge skill bonuses, and helps him go crazy, and then Nevsky can better utilize that 2300 skill damage secondary skill. For field marches, you really have an open book. The most common you're going to see are Zhang Yu, Joan, and William. Of the three, I actually prefer Joan. Obviously, you can see her here on my screen. I think that the pairing is really well. I actually sometimes even use Joan primary because the support tree helps keep her a little tankier, because both of them have such a naturally high skill damage on their primary skills. You don't need to focus as much on the skill damage, and you can still do a lot of damage. Whereas if you make them a little tankier, they can survive longer if they do get swarmed, or even if they don't get swarmed, even the chip damage you take from the little fights in the field don't wear you down as quickly. So then you can stay fighting for longer, and you don't have to go back and refresh and things like altars nearly as often. Zhang Yu is also excellent, although it's traditionally more of a rally pairing. And William is also very good because he gives a defense buff to allies, and it makes Nevsky a little more... Nevsky William is more of a support march style march. But overall, I highly recommend Joan with Nevsky in the field. I get the best results with those, and I really like the way the pair trades as overall. For rallies, Zhang Yu is still the rally commander I see probably most often, but Joan Prime is also used pretty often with Nevsky, and I've seen even Attila Nevskys being ran. Really, Nevsky can go with any meta rally commander and do well, but I've honestly still find that Joan Nevsky in that order as a rally pair does really well, because the increased tankiness helps you survive the counterattacks from garrisons and defenses. So running Joan Nevsky or Zhang Yu Nevsky or even Attila Nevsky is all on the board for rallies for Nevsky. But with that, we'll wrap up our discussion on Nevsky. There's so much to talk about with him that really you can make several discussions about him. But I tried to cover as much of what he is good at in this video. But let me know what you think. Where do you like to use Nevsky? What other commander would you like to see covered next? Let me know in the comments. And as always, good luck, fight well, and I will see you on the battlefield, maybe with a Nevsky.